All right, 6.1 is all about using our exponents and our exponent rules. Here we have our rule number 1, and rule number 1 says when we have like bases that we are multiplying, we keep the base and add the exponents. Keep the base, add the exponents. Rule number 2 says that when I have a power to power, I keep the base and I multiply exponents. Again, all of these are review of these 9 rules. None of them should be new. We're going to go through them. Rule number 3 says when you have a product to a power, you get to distribute the power to each base. And it's a product. That's why you get to distribute. You can't distribute over plus minus signs. A product, a monomial. You can distribute that power to each of the bases. Rule number 4 says if those bases already have an exponent, much like example or rule number 2. So rule number 4 is actually 2 and 3 combined. If there's a power already there, you multiply powers, and because there's more than one base, you get to distribute to both bases. So product of power to power, we distribute the power and keep the base. Multiply the exponents. Rule number 5 says if you have a negative exponent, you're going to cross the line, change the sign. The base, in this case A, is going to cross the fraction line, and the exponent changes sign. Anytime you have a negative exponent, it's going to cross the fraction line, and then the exponent's going to change signs. Rule number 6 says anything to the 0 equals 1. Rule number 7 says if you have anything to the first power, it's itself. Rule number 8 says when you're dividing like bases, and they do have to be alike, whether they're numbers or letters, you subtract the exponents, and you always subtract the smaller from the larger. So if your larger's in the numerator, then we subtract up. If your larger's in the denominator, then we would subtract down. But you always subtract when they're like bases, subtract exponents. And the last one says that if I'm dividing and I have a power on the outside, I get to distribute that power, much like the product rule of rule number 3, where I got to distribute that power to a product. I get to distribute the power to a quotient. Now, all these rules are review rules, and I could do 1,000,001 examples and I would still never cover every single type of problem that you're going to see. So the best way to do it is to just practice, practice, and practice. Keep following your rules, have your rules handy, figure out which rule applies to what, but you're just going to do tons and tons of practice with these exponents. So that's going to be 6.1.